guys, welcome welcome back to another video by the Circus system. I am Vanessa, and today I am going to be filming a book review. This is going to be the first part of our DID in Books series, and let's just get into it. So I do have our laptop over to the side here where I have the review itself typed up properly. We did do reviews in the previous version of our channel, but we did not do them this thought out. So from now, any book review we do will be written out and like much more organized in thought. Before I start, I'm going to give off some trigger warnings for this book, and I will have them also posted up here and probably in the description, but I am going to say them right now. So I'm going to say the words because I feel like if I just say trigger warning, it's not as, you're not actually being warned about what the triggers are. So this book has trigger warnings for self-harm, suicide, murder, medical hospitals, inpatient hospitals, sedation, religious rituals, possession, and exorcism. The book we will be looking at today is called The Dead House. This is, I think, actually a more special cover because it's got a little sleeve. This is what the book itself looks like. I'm trying to not have my ring light be in the way because the cover is kind of shiny. Okay, The Dead House. Yeah, that way. So this review will be separated into a few key points. We will be going over a simple synopsis of the book, which I will do my best to not include spoilers in. And then we will talk about the writing style and quality of the writing, in my opinion, of course. And then we will go into the DID representation in the book, which will involve spoilers. So if you do not want to be spoiled about this book, you can just watch the first little bit and then maybe like my ending thoughts. But I will be spoiling a lot of the book in this review. Unlike the reviews we did previously, this is a fiction novel, and in this new kind of rendition of our channel, we do want to include fiction, like fictitious representations of DID, if that makes sense, like characters with DID in a fictional setting versus only reading memoirs or things like that, which we will still be reading and still be reviewing those on this channel, but we also want to kind of talk about more fictional representations because I think those are equally as important, and if anything, more people would probably come across those versus a memoir. Because like with this book, when we purchased this book, we did not realize it was a DID book. We did not realize the main character had DID based on the little synopsis in the book. So that kind of thing, where someone could find this, read it, be like, ooh, spooky book, which is what we did, and then get misinformation that way. So, yeah. The Dead House is a fictional novel that follows two main characters, Carly and Caitlin. The twist is that they are the same person, or they share the same body. Carly fronts during the day, and Caitlin fronts at night. The book is told through a mix of diary entries from the two alters, online messages, written video diaries, as well as police interrogations. In the beginning of the book, we follow Carly and Caitlin's life and how they live side by side while going to high school. The two also find themselves being followed by some kind of entity. It follows them into what appears to be their inner world, the Dead House. Carly seeks help from their close friend Nada, who senses the evil around them, and with the help of a few other friends, they work to help Caitlin defeat what is hurting her, but there are permanent consequences. That is my very subtle synopsis. Because it's really hard to go too into it without spoiling it, honestly. So from here, it is pretty, that is basically your spoiler-free spot. I'm going to go into my thoughts on the writing itself. So in our opinion, while it is a very unique writing style, it can make it a little hard to follow. Because you'll have moments like this, where you can see that this is like a diary entry, is what it's set up to be. Including like little doodles of them doodling in their diary, which is very interesting to see and has its pros. And then here we have, this is one of the like police interviews, so it's got the different people talking. It can make it a little confusing because there's definitely some time jumps, because the police interviews are present time while all the diary entries and stuff like that is past events. The book is mostly composed of diary entries specifically from Caitlin versus Carly, which does make it a little easier to follow, but there's definitely just jumps that can disconnect you from the experience, in our opinion. It is a unique quality that the book has that to many people could be a point of interest, but for us did make it a little difficult to really stay invested, when at one point we would be reading Caitlin's diary and understanding that, and then in the next page we've jumped a few years and all of a sudden we're reading a police report. It's one of those things where it definitely just takes the right reader. To some people, that is a great appeal of the book. That is something unique and interesting that makes the book, like gives it some desire and makes it stand out. But in that same time, depending on you and what you like to read, that could also, again, cause some disconnect. I am now going to go into our thoughts on the DID representation in this book, which is when we will get into a little bit more of the triggering topics directly. That was also more just a trigger warning, like for the book itself. If anyone chooses to read it, I'm not going to be discussing all of those triggers, but this next section will likely include some of them. In my opinion, it is not a great representation of DID. When we purchased the book, like I mentioned earlier, we did not even realize it was a DID book. I just looked into it thinking it was like a ghost story. And the book directly says at multiple different points, because we see therapist interviews, that Carly, who is the host, the body, like the body's name, has DID. Like the book says that, it is stated, it is not an inference. Like the character is supposed to have DID. And while every system is unique and different, I stand by that wholeheartedly, there are some things that just are not possible, and this book definitely leans into that aspect of things. For example, their body doesn't sleep or doesn't seem to need to. They can, but they don't have to. During the day, Carly is fronting, but once the sun sets, Caitlin fronts. And Caitlin just exists at night while Carly exists during the day. And on top of that just not being really how switches work, the body would still need to function. It's still a human body. It would still need sleep to go through the things that it needs in life. Beyond that aspect of it, the book does take a pretty harsh turn into the more spiritual sides of things towards the end. And we are a very spiritual person, and that does play, like, it plays into our life a lot, but it does not change the way our DID exists. It might change the way we handle and address it, but us having spiritual beliefs does not alter the way that our DID formed. If that makes sense. Full spoilers here. Later in the book we find out that Carly and Caitlin were cursed by another character in the book. I'm not going to spoil that, but was directly cursed. And this person was talking and connected to Caitlin, and with this curse that he put on them, erased Carly. Carly disappeared. She no longer exists. It was not a dormancy thing. It wasn't a fusion. Carly just vanished. Beyond that, we start opening up into demons and things like that, where, like, in opening this door in Carly and Caitlin's mind into this dead house that they have, which, with my knowledge of systems, really is just portrayed as their inner world, but it's treated as a whole nother thing. I don't want to discredit spiritual beliefs because we have many of them, but it is such a harmful DID trope already. To see it again is just tiring in general. For one, it is a tired, burnt out idea, but it also just hurts. And it's always like, I find a book and I'm like, oh wow, these characters are actually cool and like they have DID, and then it's like demons, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, but it's just, I don't know. In my opinion, I really wish they would have just gone one way or the other. I wish the author would have just made it a ghost story, that Carly was being haunted by a ghost already, or just like fully went into the possession exorcism thing instead of trying to combine the ideas, which I think she could have made it work, the author. I really think it could have worked, but I just feel like the way they went about it, it just was not executed well, and ultimately I think is a somewhat harmful representation, honestly. I just feel like if they would have made it a true demon story, it would have worked better. Even the different hospital scenes that we have where Caitlin is hospitalized, like mentally hospitalized, the same kind of scenes where she has her freakouts about seeing or hearing these demonic voices in her head. Same scene. You didn't even have to change any of it. Could have been kept and just made it a ghost story. There was no need to really involve an already so stigmatized mental illness into something that is just, I feel like it was just so close in so many aspects. I feel like if they would have just fully committed to the DID thing, it would have worked really well, because they talk about the dead house being the inner world. They interact with other entities within the dead house that could just be hidden or dormant altars, and could have easily been turned into a really powerful self-discovery of a system story. Or it could have just been turned into a cool, spooky ghost story. I feel like the overlap just made things complicated. It made it a little confusing, and it definitely is stigmatizing. And with that, that is my thoughts on The Dead House. I definitely didn't hate it. I feel like it is an enjoyable novel. I just really wish they would have just done one or the other with the storyline. It's not a book I'd say don't read. I would just say read it mindfully. Consider, just think about the representation and acknowledge that it is not great while reading it, and I think you're fine. If anyone's watching this video, they probably are not going to read this and take it as fact. But yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any book recommendations, please leave them below in the comments. It can be DID books that are memoirs, nonfiction, like anything, or more fictional stories like this. We want to try to incorporate both in this series of sorts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you have a good rest of your day. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.